Hello, this is Wade Frazier. This is February 17th, 2026, 9:11 a.m. Today, first, I'm going to do a little housekeeping. So, oh my. My forum, my personal forum, I've had it for more than a decade, 12 years or something. Um, and most of the traffic's been bots and hackers, but since I joined Substack, my profile has been rising a bit, I would guess. And the last couple of days, I have the distinction of my forums getting a denial of service attack. So somebody doesn't want the world seeing what I'm doing. So most of the traffic's coming from Asia, Vietnam in particular. So anyway, typical DDoS attack. And so I have one now. So anyway, my admin will resolve it somehow soon. But I built back in 2010. I built my own computer. I was making big high tech bucks and built it myself. Um, Everything. In fact, Windows 7. They had Windows 7 at the time, and I was able to do the whole thing by myself. Before that, all my builds I had to take a computer shop, and they'd have to still fiddle with it to get it to work. But anyway, in 2010, I built my own, and for 30 years. Yeah, pretty much 30 years. Microsoft and this blue screen of death stuff. And I remember saying, again, back in the 90s, if it's not stable and secure, the rest doesn't matter. And but when I built my own Windows 7, didn't have one blue screen of death. In fact, I migrated to Windows 10, a decade ago or something. Never got a blue screen of death. And then Microsoft forced it sunsetted Windows 10, forced everybody to go to Windows 11, then actually forced people like me to buy a new computer. And now I get blue screen of death every day. So Microsoft told us to learn this lesson. So this is yeah. And everything's becoming more unstable. And then again, there's like a war on email going on. So my email providers they censor my emails quite often. And with the stupidest, it's like they say it's AI, and it's not AI, it's stupid. It's artificial stupidity. It's easy. It's e it's easy to design something that monitors traffic, makes sure it's not spam, but doesn't just block it. It's just so stupid, And from my IT background, I see this stupidity over and over. I just have to conclude there's just a war on email going on. Again, more of the censorship and et cetera. So there's all these different subtle ways that they are able to censor people like me. Yeah. So this is what I'm going through these days. And again, my Zoom's unstable. My computer's unstable. My internet connection keeps failing all the time. This is Microsoft. Emails, yeah. I avoid cloud-based software as much as possible because I don't trust the cloud. I don't trust somebody else having my data and software, et cetera. So it is a little more work, but it's security. I have better security than relying on some faceless cloud company out there that has failures or goes out of business, all these kinds of things. Or decides to kick me off because, whatever their rationales are. This is Ed Herman's propaganda model at work. Yeah, so these days now it's an adventure. It's a daily adventure of rebooting my computer or blue screen of deathing on me, or again, all sorts of things crashing. So it's fun. Yeah, high tech. Still haven't learned the most basic lessons. Or worse. So I'd like to continue with the lessons learned during my days with Dennis Lee. The previous post, I got into that, and this one will continue it. Uh, let's see here. So again, these are lessons that I learned from my days with Dennis Lee, and most of it was I learned the whole lesson um, during my first stint with Dennis. But also, there were a lot of lessons I learned that I didn't fully learn it until, years and years later. But I would start learning it in my days with Dennis, and then there would be again, study and events would happen, and then I'd be going, oh, that's what was happening, or this, or okay, now I really get it that this is an issue, this kind of thing. So, but I said my greatest lessons were learned during my first day with Dennis, but quite a few lessons I've learned kind of in the years since. Where again, my first brush with these issues would be during my first day with Dennis, and then I would just get more information, study more, etc. And things would become clearer, and the lessons would become clearer to me. And to continue with this series of lessons, I published this back in a decade ago, decade ago, these lessons. Um, Actually, I think I did a lessons learned essay back in 2009 or something. So yeah, I've been doing this for a long time. Lessons learned. These are my first video presentations of this. Uh, and to continue the list, my next one on the list was Americans don't have the right stuff to pursue free energy, but neither does any other nation. So yeah, no nation has the right stuff for this, and so they're all corrupt, subjected to the global elites, all this kind of stuff, and the people are everybody's sleeping. Yeah, there's no awakened country on earth. It's again, most people are asleep. And so I'm looking for needles in haystacks. And yeah, so a national effort or corporate effort, all these things are just they haven't worked. I'm not going to waste any more of my life on those approaches. And so I'm doing something different. And it may not help, but it won't hurt. And I don't think nobody should have their life ruined or shortened if they're involved with me, if they heed my cautions. And one of the biggest ones is rushing out and telling your friends and family and social circle about free energy and the next epic, etc. All you'll get is ostracism, denial, and fear. Pretty much. The best you'll get is somebody that says, well, hey, if you're ever successful, then I'll take a free energy device for my home. Sure. Who wouldn't? The mass movement stuff, social circle stuff, none of that works. And so the nationalistic approach also doesn't work. It's got to be something different. It's got to be global in scope, global in awareness, rising above nationalism, ethnicities, all in-group ideologies. It has to jettison all that in order to be enlightened, in order to be productive. And so this is what my work's always been about, really, is that. Because I saw all these failed approaches. And anyway, so yeah, the United States, yeah, we're the most brainwashed populace on the planet, are Americans. And so, but again, it's the best brainwashing system. So most people don't think they're brainwashed; they think they're educated. But it's really brainwashing. And again, this is something Ed Herman, Noam Chomsky wrote about in their work long ago, almost 50 years ago, writing about this exact subject. The next category I have is the mass movement mentality. It won't work for this. All mass movements seek some kind of lowest common denominator, thing people have in common for in-group cohesion. And it's virtually always self-serving. Almost always. It's always self-serving. And so back to self-serving mentalities is not going to get this done. So if people are trying to get rich or famous or all those base motivations, let's say, yeah, it doesn't have a chance. It doesn't have a prayer. And again, I've said this repeatedly, that most efforts fail before organized suppression even needs to get out of bed. So there's rarely been any strong movements. And what we had going on in Ventura was actually world's best heating system. Yeah, we could have again, if we would have been unmolested, we would have free energy today, because there's plenty of technology out there. And again, what made us such a threat wasn't any particular single technology. It wasn't the heat pump. It wasn't my mentor's heat engine. It was a dentist knew how to bring pigs to market. So that was the threat. And the people like Sparky Street were right down the road. That's what turned us into a final alarm fire that had to be put out, and fast. And that's again, and that realization didn't come to me for a long time. So I learned about Sparky and where he lived and a lot of things over the years. I'm like, oh, okay, that's why they took us out. Um, but anyway, so mass movements, all of them, they're about self-interest, pretty much. Now I can understand a march, stop the genocide in Gaza. Okay, good stuff. At the same time, it's beseeching, the system to like stop. Yeah, and Sam Husseini is giving it the good fight on that. And God bless him. I wish him the best on that. And it's a big uphill task. And Sam cites, where the United Nations has reduced foreign aggression in the past a few times. So he's hoping that this time it does it again. So maybe, but also it's been that he's looking to other nations to do it, not the United States, who's actually the biggest accomplice to the genocide in Gaza. Yeah, the United States is useless. The United States isn't going to help. Again, it's our genocide, paid with our tax dollars, our weapons, all this kind of stuff. Because there's all that oil over there, and we got these white people allies dividing the Arabs, etc. Big subject. But anyway, so the mass movement mentality just won't get there. I've seen this over and over and over again. I was part of 5 different mass movements, and I just saw the limitations, the weaknesses, because everybody was in it for self-serving. Once it appeals to a self-serving mentality, it's doomed. Particularly for something like this, the biggest event in the human journey, the most lucrative technology of all time. If the people involved are trying to make a profit, get rich, etc., it's already doomed. It's already doomed. And then again, this is before organized suppression even has to get involved, and it will if I'm gonna have my denial of service attack right now on my forum. So it's like, there's people who don't want Fifth Epic. They want us to keep, mired in scarcity, steel cage match for survival, going with destroying the planet, making an Earth uninhabitable, all these kinds of things. And so, they're very real. They're protecting their power. They're protecting their game. And people are not going to prevail from a self-serving mentality. Simply won't work. The next category I have is, again, free energy and related technologies are already on the Earth, and the organized suppression is a very real phenomenon. Yeah, me and my buddies have lived through that. So and again, that's one of the things that, this whole thing about Dennis, et cetera, is that even the free energy field, everybody lies about Dennis or ignores him. And it's like his story, his journey, what we went through should be like Exhibit A, should be the first chapter of any book on how to make free energy happen, to understand how the world works. And practically nobody in the free energy field gets it. They don't get it. And this is the reason why I don't want to have anything to do with the free energy field. And I'll get into this a lot more in detail in the future, but it's like, it's all attacks, or it's dismissals and attacks. And how are you going to learn your lessons when the biggest lesson of all is like everybody ignores it and denies it and lies about it? And the people who do that are doomed. I mean, they think they're going to do something productive in this area. They're doomed, totally doomed. And I see this over and over and over again. And back to, I don't belong to mass movement approaches, because they do, they don't have the right stuff. And Brian, in his, the interview I did with him with the Project Camelot 2009, he, in a nice way, he said that if it's going to happen, it won't be the people in the free energy field today, because they don't got it. They don't have it. And I've seen this over and over again. If they have some piece of it, some inventor with something, then he's trying to get paid $1 trillion, or thinks he's the messiah, or his buddies steal it from him, or organized suppression gets involved and kills him. All these kinds of things. And yeah, so it's a three-ring circus. It's the reality around free energy technology and its existence and its organized suppression. Very few people can handle even thinking about it without flying off the handle, going off on all sorts of crazy tangents. And I've been watching this now, my God, for almost 40 years. I've been watching the various dysfunctional reactions to the whole situation. And but it's real. And Earth and humanity and Earth are in the balance. This is the issue. We're going to swim or sink as a species, as a planet on this issue. And so it deserves to be discussed. And again, Dennis's adventures should be chapter 1 in any curriculum of how to make this stuff happen. But partly how to say it. It won't work. So again, Indiana Jones can't do it by himself. But what we encountered, and again, and Greer does this. It's not the organized suppression so much. It's the rest of us. That's the biggest problem. And nobody wants to hear that. They want to blame some, faceless elites for it all. When look in the mirror, it's us. We're the problem, not these global elites. In fact, my next topic was again the global elites. I used to call them global controllers. Again, it's kind of been funny over the years. So Dennis. And again, 40 years ago, I didn't know there were global controllers or global elites. And Dennis called the people he encountered the big boys. And he didn't even know really that it was global elites that we were encountering. He was probably a little quicker on that than I was, because he didn't tell me stuff. But so the global elites were involved in Seattle, Boston, Ventura. Ever since, again, I've assumed I've been under surveillance for the last 40 years, and I'm sure I have been. And the global elites haven't forgotten about me. So again, this denial of service attack I'm getting is maybe a preview of what's coming if I get any traction with this stuff. If I can find the people that can help out. So. And the global elites. So again, they're experts at hiding in the shadows. Yeah, you don't get to meet Mr. Big. Even us, even my friends, even the underground technology show, these kinds of things. You don't get to meet Mr. Big. You're just meeting the minions, or you meet some dissident faction, etc. But the people who really run the show, again, is Stephen. And again, I'll respect what Greer says about some of this. Is that the Mormon financial empire has been the current leader of the global elites. I'll buy that. Again, Mormons stole our companies in Seattle and Ventura, which it was a generation later when I heard her say that, and it was like, isn't that interesting to hear that? And so, yeah, but they find the shadows. So there's a couple organizations that have been named, which are still nebulous. It's like, and it's not all of them. So you can't walk into a Mormon church somewhere think you're going to encounter the global elite. Not how it works. But for the magnitude of their task, again, keeping these world transforming technologies out of the public's hands, their touch is relatively light, surprisingly light, because most efforts self-destruct, where they fall prey to lower level predators before the global elites even need to get involved. They rarely intervene. Again, rarely. This is all relative. So again, the 10,000 people who got paid off, over 30 years ago, which is probably 20,000 people now. And I've given an estimate. There's probably been 100,000 disruptive technology efforts over the last century, and none of them have been successful. And yeah, some number like that. And so, and that goes with guys inventing carburetors in the garages and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, so nothing has been allowed to make headway. And I said, Dennis's heat pump, the best heating system in the world. And today there's only one company in the world in Portugal that makes them. It's been totally wiped out in North America. This is the fate. This is the fate of everything that can disrupt the biggest racket on earth. Yeah, the energy racket is king. Everything else is a distant second place. And so this is something that, and you learn this eventually. We learned the hard way. I'm hoping the people that I'm looking for don't have to learn the hard way, because it's not easy to survive learning the hard way. My next category was the media can just make it as it goes and turn reality upside down. And again, the media lied about Dennis almost from the day I met him, and always smeared him. And again, national TV shows and again, national magazines and newspapers, and they always smeared him, always lied about him. And again, and the gangster officials there in Washington and Ventura County and nationally, they all give him what they need. Give him some sound bites and quotes to portray Dennis as some criminal when he's the greatest human being I'll ever know. And so that's the great crime of all of this is the people the few, the Indiana, the heroes out there, they all had hell to pay because the people around the world don't want to have their apple cart upset, even if it means destroying and putting the planet at risk. So yeah. So anyway, so the media is a key part of that. So the media is just a life factory. And I learned that before I ever heard of Noam Chomsky and Ed Herman. And yeah, and again, I produced in my right now forum that's under attack. And I produced a bunch of the newspaper articles about Dennis over the years. And again, for the people I'm looking for, it's a class for them to watch how the media applies its trade, how it lies. And this is, Noam and Ed, particularly Ed with his propaganda model, et cetera. I knew they lied. And Ed and Noam kind of explained to me how they lied and why they lied, and why the capitalist press is always going to serve elite interests. And so as long as you have a capitalist press, as propaganda model will still apply. It'll still be relevant. So yeah, until the fifth epoch arrives and collapses all the rackets, collapses capitalism, etc., the media is always going to be a lie factory. And I said right now it's censoring emails and it's denial of service attacks and all this stuff, to silence people who have a voice that's worth listening to. So this is how it is. But it's not all lost. And so this is where my next point is that the power of a few committed people. So a handful of us. I mean, the forces of darkness were going all out in Ventura to take us out and make sure that nothing rose from those ashes. And a handful of us prevailed, let's say, to live to try another day, and an awesome cost. Wayne, the professor's life was shortened. Dennis's wife's Allison, her life was shortened. Dennis should be dozens of times over. And I was just young and idealistic enough to survive it. Really, that's why I survived with my sanity intact and my youth and idealism. Yeah, Boy Scout. Boy Scouts they can survive when most people won't because they're driven differently. And again, I've seen this. In fact, as in my coming post that said I'm going to get into that, the Boy Scouts. Again, the people I've run into, the people in my pantheon, basically they're just boys and Girl Scouts who, again, back to disillusioned idealists. And these are the ones though who didn't just quietly go away or quietly, shut up. They try to make it dent. And they all had hell to pay. Shortened lives is a common thing. Surviving murder attempts, all these kinds of things. So again, and I'm doing something that I think the people that I'm looking for don't have to go through any of that. No murder attempts. No, again, they don't try to proselytize out there. They're not going to have to worry about their careers or their relationships getting destroyed. But they need to be real people too. So it can't be a movement of the anonymous isn't going to work either. So I think I might get into that. But anyway, but one of the biggest lessons really that I brought from my journey with Dennis is a few people really could make a dent. I mean, the global elites, we gave them some interesting days in the office, probably some sleepless nights. And yeah, we were a definite big threat. In fact, one of the biggest threats they ever encountered. And but they took care to wipe us out, but we survived. So yeah, it was Yeah, they're like, we offered $1 billion, that didn't work. We tried to, lock them up, throw the key, that didn't work. We tried to kill them, that didn't work. So yeah, it's been a few people. Like I said, it doesn't take many. Again, my whole choir idea is I get 5,000 people learn to sing the song of abundance, it's over. It that's the key. In fact, when I saw Dennis last year, he agreed. He said if I can get 5,000 people that can do the love and enlightenment approach and really do it and form what I call a choir, a high level conversation where it's sentient, loving, enlightened, all this kind of stuff, and it jettisons all the lies and propaganda that we've all been raised with. I find that people that can do that, we will have the fifth epic coming soon. Heaven on earth, world of abundance. It's not that far off if those people can be found, and I think they exist. I said, again, I'll write about some of these people later, but and again, all of them were kind of how to say it. If Brian O'Leary had lived, he'd have been on board with what I'm doing big time. Of all those people, he's probably the only one. Probably, I said Dennis knew that what I'm doing will work if I can find the people, and I've been trying to make my work worthy of them for the last 30 years, and I think it's adequate. So my work, I believe, is adequate for the people that I seek, for them to develop a comprehensive perspective and learn to sing on stage with me the song of abundance, which is the key, because the greatest triumph of the global elite, etc., is making the fifth epic and world of abundance and free energy, all these kinds of things, to make it unthinkable. This is our greatest triumph, and almost all of humanity obliges them. But I'm looking for the few who dare to imagine a world of abundance, a world of love, instead of the world of scarcity and fear that we've lived in forever. That's the name of my game. The last topic for this post, and again, more posts are coming on this, but what I learned was that the secrecy and deception game will not work, not for this epical task. And again, there's no way to sneak up on these people. You're not going to sneak up on the global elite, and you're not going to outfox them. Okay, it's just, again, all of that is just futile. And when I was with Dennis and Allison, we'd be under surveillance. I said, I'm probably under surveillance right now. And we'd go to a restaurant and they'd be writing stuff down on legal pads as if they didn't want to talk because people could overhear us. And I was doing this. And I was just going, really, part of me just immediately goes, well, if we got to do that, we're dead. I mean, if we got to play those games, we don't have a chance. And so, yeah, for me, secrecy and deception and all this kind of stuff, this has to be done in the light of day. Has to be done in the light of day. And so I need to find people who are brave enough to be real people with me, who can learn to sing the song. That's what I seek. And again, back to comprehensive perspectives, etc. It'll help them keep their eye on the ball. I get approached by people who like, ooh, it looks like they might get it. And then I watch them veer off to oblivion, down some rabbit hole, because some geezer gets on YouTube and says he's an insider and he's got the answer, etc. And there's so many guys like that, and newcomers. I said there's a minefield. There's a minefield out there, and newcomers, I watch them stumble and fall and disappear all the time. And I was like, what happened to him? Oh, he just disappeared. And then later on, I'll find out how he got into some rabbit hole and never emerged. Often around conspiracy stuff, quite often, which is paranoid and all these kinds of things. Yes, there are conspiracies. Yes, the globally have organized suppression. That stuff's real. But for every real event, there's probably 1,000 imagined ones that the conspiracy fear out there, conspiracy fear or some neologism there, but probably for every 1,000 of the so-called conspiracies that they get obsessed about, a handful are legitimate or reality. Most of them are just tabloid level paranoia and speculation and stuff. And this is again, I learned this over the years. It's again back to Gary Ween and his John Tower conversation, and then the Northwoods declassification, and again now with the more declassification, the leading John Kennedy assassination scenario is basically Gary's story, and to this day it's ignored by like everybody, almost everybody in the milieu, mainstream. They just ignore it, and there it is, in black and white. Compare the documents. It's like, wow, okay, yeah, Oswald didn't do it. And it should be obvious to anybody Oswald didn't do it. And to this day, it's still denied and dismissed and all this. I mean, how to say it? People are now taking Gary's story without mentioning Gary, mentioning some other mobsters, etc. And it's like, and again, I'll be carrying Gary's torch the rest of my life. And when will his testimony get the attention it deserves? I don't know. Again, but it's also another, back to personal integrity is the world's scarcest commodity. Yeah, everyone wants to grind their own axes. So to give credit to, and Gary's dead, so it's not like he's going to be, honored or hurt or something. But it's like that information has been out there for 40 years, and it's ignored. So anyway, yeah, enough ranting for one morning. But yeah, secret deception is not going to work. You're not going to outsmart him. And again, people like Mark Cummings, to his credit, he tried to sneak past some reproach until he was rudely disabused of his idea he could secretly develop his free energy prototype more. Yeah, and again, once they cleaned his lab out, he got it. He goes, okay, yeah, that's not going to work. And so Mark got a big point for that to and he was young. He was in his 20s or mid 20s or something. So yeah, so it won't work, and so and somebody like Mark, fortunately, he only had to get one good dose of that to realize he was in way over his head. And that approach ain't gonna work. Yeah, the global elite have surveillance capabilities second to none. And anybody who thinks they're gonna sneak past them is a fool. In fact, that kind of foolishness can lead to a short life. A wreck life at minimum, but also a shortened life. And so, yeah, so I try to dissuade anybody from thinking that they're going to be, do some anonymous work or we're going to play some secrecy game and outfox them and all this kind of stuff. No, love will prevail, and it's got to be truth. It's got to be in the light of day. That's, to me, that's all I'm interested in. And people who want to go play the secrecy games and stuff or anonymous games, not interested. So there's plenty of people out there doing that. So good luck with that. But for what I'm doing, it's not going to work. And these are all lessons that I learned. Again, through experience, trading notes with fellow travelers, this kind of thing. Yeah, none of this stuff is stuff that I, some bright idea came up with one day. It's just eventually acknowledging the reality. It's going, oh, okay, this is what's happening over and over again. There seems to be a pattern here. Gee, what's going on? Yeah, that's it. That's pretty much all I have to offer is that. Is you get out there and you do enough of this stuff, and then you go, oh, okay, why is this happening? Why did that happen 10 times in a row? And you go, oh, okay, this seems to be what's happening. And most of my work's that, really. It's not, it ain't rocket science. So anyway, that's all I have for now.